welcome to the inaugural lecture of Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng is a professor of history of Ghana and the environment. This afternoon, he will be speaking on the topic, the ideological square, a historian's framework. He'll be speaking on the topic, the historian's framework for environmental.
We ask for your presence. We commit all the functionaries into your hands. We ask that may you function through them. We pray, asking for grace, excellence, and utterance for him. Those on their way coming, may you bring them here safely. And we commit the entire program into your hands. We ask that, Father, may you make it a success. We thank you for an answered prayer. In the name of Christ Jesus, our Lord, we pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Forgive me, we would continue standing and then take the UCC anthem.
There is no organ to cover up for today, so we are all singing. Thank you. So I'm tuning and we go on the count of 3. UCC, UCC, 1, 2, go. UCC, UCC, we are the lifeless of them all. UCC, UCC, we are the teachers of the nation. We learn to teach, we find out and pass on, we counsel, we guide, that all may be enlightened. UCC, UCC, therefore rise to your call. UCC, UCC, to the call, let us rise to our call, let us rise. Veritas nobis lumen. UCC, UCC, therefore rise to your call. UCC, UCC, to the call, let us rise to our call, let us rise. Veritas nobis lumen. UCC, UCC, we are the humblest of them all. UCC, UCC, we are the bedrock of our knowledge. Being proud of this, we students and workers in concert shall work that your image may be heightened, UCC, UCC. Therefore rise to your call, UCC, UCC. To the call, let us rise. To our call, let us rise. Where it does no peace, lumen, UCC, UCC. Therefore rise to your call, UCC, UCC. To the call, let us rise. To our call, let us rise. Where it does no peace, lumen, UCC, UCC. We are the kindest of them all. UCC, UCC. We are the brainchild of Nkrumah. We train, we mold, and live by his vision to impart our virtues, that Ghana may be strengthened. UCC, UCC. Therefore rise to your call, UCC, UCC. To the call, let us rise. To our call, let us rise. Where it does no peace, lumen, UCC, UCC. Therefore rise to your call, UCC, UCC. To the call, let us rise. To our call, let us rise. Where it does no peace, lumen.
Thank you. Kindly take your seats. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor of introducing our chairperson for today's inaugural lecture. Our chair is a pharmacist and a biomedical scientist and is a member of numerous international and local professional bodies. He has taught at various levels and supervised a number of MPhil and PhD students from different backgrounds. He has climbed through the ranks of this university and has been at the forefront of academic leadership in key areas. He is presently the Vice Chancellor of University of Cape Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Johnson Nyakon Buampong.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Rosemond Abuadu Abohim, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast, Mr. Jeff Emmanuel Onyame, Registrar, University of Cape Coast, Nana Kweku Enu III, Maria of Ogwa Traditional Area, representing Osabarema Kwesi Ata, Omahin of Ogwa Traditional Area, Nananom, Professor Kweku Edutum Boache, Vice Chancellor, Cape Coast Technical University, Pro Vice Chancellors of Sister Universities present, Registrars of Sister Universities, Professor Emeritus K.N. Eisen, former Acting Vice Chancellor and former Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Adorben, former Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast, Professor D.D. Kupoli, former Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast, Professor Joseph Gatampia, former Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast, Professor Emeritus Victor Patrick Yagajipo, former President, Central University. Professor Joshua Owusu-Setre, former Vice Chancellor, Cape Coast Technical University. Professor John Nelson Bois, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast. Professor George K.T. Odro, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast. Professor Dora Francisca Dubuando, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast. Professor Emeritus Kofi Awisabo Asare, Department of Population and Health and former Chairman of National Accreditation Board. Professor S.Y. Mensah, Chairman of College of Professors and Department of Physics. Provost, Deans, Directors of Academic and Administrative Units, Heads of Department and Heads of Halls, Members of Convocation, staff and students, distinguished invited guests, friends in the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. On behalf of the Governing Council, management, staff and students of the University of Cape Coast, I welcome you to today's professorial inaugural lecture to be delivered by Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng. We wish to extend a hearty welcome to all our special guests, families, and friends of Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng. We say Akwaba, and we appreciate your presence and support. Distinguished invited guests, within the Academy, inaugural lecture provides the occasion for universities to acknowledge the appointment or promotion of academics to the rank of professor, introduce them, and provide them with the opportunity to engage with the university community. An inaugural lecture is therefore a significant milestone in an academic's career, recognizing the person's contribution to knowledge in a special field and subsequent promotion to the rank of a professor. Ladies and gentlemen, these lectures form a key part of the traditions of the University of Cape Coast, where we create the platform to enable our astute professors to showcase to the university-wide audience their research and their perspectives on the issues that are of interest to them. On occasions such as these, each lecture therefore provides an opportunity for an academic to share, among others, his or her achievements in research, innovation, management, and teaching activities before an audience of members of the university community and the general public. As you already know, it is the only time academics get to profess what they know or think without being questioned. Though Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng was promoted to the professorial rank in 2019, it is today that he will celebrate this important personal milestone with a broad audience, including members of the public, family, friends, colleagues, both old and new. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng will synthesize his scholarship and contribution to knowledge in his field of specialization, which is history, in the inaugural lecture captioned "The Ideological Square, a Historian's Framework for Environmental Conservation." Professor Osei Kwarteng will deliver the lecture in a simplified manner so that individuals who do not belong to the same fold will understand what he has come to say. Ladies and gentlemen, before Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng steps forward to deliver his inaugural lecture, permit me to read his profile. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng was born into Akwabua royal family of both Nim and Akwabua in Ashanti to the late Madam Akuya Friye, also known as Grace Okuma, and Mr. Emmanuel Kwarteng of Isuta Jetia in 1965. He had his primary education at Jetia Local Authority Primary School and 2 years middle school education at the main Methodist Middle School, and proceeded to Ahafuman Secondary Technical School at Goso in Ahafu region to commence his secondary education. He was later transferred to Sunyani Secondary School, where he had his ordinary level and advanced level examination certificates. He gained admission to the University of Cape Coast to pursue Bachelor of Arts degree and Diploma in Education in History and Religious Studies. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng also had his Master of Philosophy degree at the University of Cape Coast and his Doctor of Philosophy degree at the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. Teaching experience. Before his appointment as assistant lecturer in the University of Cape Coast in June 2001, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng taught as a professional teacher in the employment of Ghana Education Service at Kumasi High School from September 1992 to August 1996, and from April 1999 to August 2001 as a history, Christian religious studies, and social studies teacher. He was also a teaching assistant at the Center of West African Studies, University of Birmingham, UK, during his doctoral studies. Boards, councils, and committee. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has served on several boards, councils and committees at the national, regional, and institutional levels. First, he was the chairman of the Board of Governors of Mfansiman Girls Senior High School, Sopon, from February 2012 to March 2017. Again, he was a chairman, Ministerial Advisory Committee on Curriculum Reform from 2017 to 2021. He was also appointed the chairman, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA for short, from July 2017 to January 2021. He was reappointed chairman of the reconstituted NACA board in September 2021. The Ghana National Curriculum Framework for Pre-Tertiary Education is a product of the committee he chaired. Moreover, his chairmanship of NACA witnessed the development of the standard-based curriculum, the reintroduction of history of Ghana in the basic schools curriculum, and the development of the Common Core curriculum program for the junior high school and the senior high school. Currently, he is a member of the newly constituted governing board of Ghana National College, Cape Coast. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has served on several statutory committees in the University of Cape Coast. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng was an executive member of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, UCC, from 2009 to 2017. Twice as the secretary and once as the vice president. Until October 2017, he was the president of UTAG UCC and a member of the University of Cape Coast Governing Council. He represented UTAG on several committees at the University of Cape Coast. Additionally, he was a member of the National Teaching Council, representing National Council for Tertiary Education from July 2017 to January 2021. Contribution to scholarship. As an academic, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has authored 2 books. 1, A History of Ahafo, 1719 to 1958. Ahafo from the earliest times to 1958, published in 2011. 2, A History of the Elephant in Ghana in the 20th century. The elephant in Ghana from the earliest times to the close of the 20th century, published in 2011. Besides, he has co-authored 3 books on institutional history. 1, A History of the University of Cape Coast, 50 Years of Excellence in Tertiary Education, 1962 to 2012, published in 2012. Number 2, A History of Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary School Charts, 50 years of providing quality leadership in secondary education in Ghana, 1962 to 2012, published in 2012. Number 3, A History of the University of Cape Coast, 50 years of resilience, 1962 to 2002. That's 2002. He has also led 2 separate teams of academics to write 1, The History of the University of Cape Coast in 2022 for the celebration of its 60th anniversary. 2, The History of Ghana Heritage Conservation Trust in 2023 for the celebration of the organization's Silver Jubilee. Both books are in print and will be available very soon for the public to read. Edited books. He has co-edited 2 books. 1, Africa and the First World War, 1914 to 1918. Remembrance, Memories, and Representations after 100 years, published in 2018. 2, The Asante World, published by Routledge in 2021. Additionally, he has written several articles on Ahafo, the African elephant, and the environment, which have been published in reference journals. Besides, he has contributed 10 book chapters in 9 edited volumes. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has attended many conferences, workshops, and colloquia in Ghana and abroad as either a keynote speaker or a presenter of results of his research. For instance, he has attended conferences and workshops in UK, Jordan, Israel, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, USA, Ivory Coast, Norway, Dubai, and Ethiopia. Postgraduate supervision. He has served and trained 2 PhDs and 8 Master of Philosophy students in his own department. Again, he has supervised 2 MPhil students, 1 each from the Department of Arts Education and Department of Social Science Education in the College of Education Studies of the University of Cape Coast. Apart from supervision of PhD and MPhil students, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has served as internal assessor of PhD and MPhil theses in his own department, outside his department, in the university, and from other universities. He has also served as external assessor of MPhil and PhD theses from other universities. He is a reviewer of many reputable journals. In the area of assessment of promotions, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has assessed papers for applicants seeking promotion to the rank such as professor, associate professor, and senior lecturer in both local and international universities. During Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng's tenure as the head of Department of History, the department witnessed the establishment of international linkages with universities abroad, thus making the department and the University of Cape Coast visible internationally. As a professor of history, he has been invited by some Ghanaian and international radio and television stations to participate in programs as a resource person to discuss topical issues. And I hope you have heard him on the radio. Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng is a family man. He is married to Mrs. Comfort Osei Kwarteng and has 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng, Professor of History, the current Provost of the College of Humanities and Legal Studies of the University of Cape Coast, as he mounts the podium to present his inaugural lecture on the topic, the ideological square, a historian's framework for environmental conservation. Thank you for your attention.
Ahead of his presentation, we'll take a musical interlude, and Gideon Afezi will do us the Yanis as Professor Kwarteng prepares to deliver the speech.
Thanking all its loss. Count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. of care. Does the cross seem heavy? You are called to bear. Count your many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what the Lord has done in your life. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Chair. I would like to associate myself with the protocol that has already been established. I am not going to waste your time because already a lot of time had been wasted because of the power outage. So I'll straight away go into my script and provide you with what I mean by the ideological square. Ideological square, a historian's framework for environmental conservation. Yeah. I have taken to research on elephant or research on environment because when I was in Kumasi High School doing my, as a teacher in Kumasi High School after my master's degree program, I met a professor who was working at the Institute of Renewable Natural Resources and who used to be a prayer partner of mine, Professor William Odro. He introduced me into it. He wanted me to research into ivory trade. And this resulted in me doing PhD on elephant. And so this is part of a long journey since Professor Odro introduced me into studies on ivory trade, which culminated in my PhD thesis in the University of Birmingham. And I produced, by the grace of the Almighty God, one of the best PhD theses ever in the Center of West African Studies, University of Birmingham. Professor Chair, I begin with this inaugural lecture by intimating that one major problem that has been of critical concern to governments, both past and present, and indeed the entire people of contemporary Ghana, and has generated enormous public debate and attention, is the rapid environmental degradation. Indeed, the problem of environmental degradation has assumed global proportions to the extent that it has become topical, stimulating international debates at conferences and media spaces in an attempt to find an enduring panacea to it, but to no avail. For the purposes of this discussion and within the context of this inaugural lecture, we are limiting ourselves to the forest belt of Ghana more generally, and in the Akan, more generally in the Akan areas. The reason being that environmental degradation these days is very much pronounced in the forest belt, where there is wanton destruction of the forest cover, either for extraction of gold or timber resources. That notwithstanding, Passing references will be made to the environmental degradation occurring elsewhere and what it portends for humanity globally. Extant literature gleaned from archaeology, history, botany, zoology had provided sufficient evidence and insight into the extent to which climate change has caused havoc to Africa's flora and fauna. A case in point is the Sahara Desert, which once supported thick vegetation, water bodies, and wildlife. In fact, I was going to play this thing to you, but because of want of time, I will not play it. If you want. Okay. Now, you want to watch it? Then, okay, if you want to watch it, by popular request, I'm giving it to you. Oh. What is it? But it's not praying. It's not praying. Okay. Until the technical people fix it for us, let me go on. Anytime. On elephants across time and space, a subject I hope to return to much later. Georgiadis et al., for example, note that elephants were once found across the entire African continent. Further, Leonard Hayward writes that elephants were in many parts of Africa during the period from the mid-second to mid-first millennia BC. Douglas Hamilton and Rolfe state that, I quote, prehistorically, elephant occurred throughout the African continent, from the Guinean to the Mediterranean coast, until the present-day Sahara Desert evolved and separated elephants in the north from those in the south. Additionally, Moulet writes that, and I quote, 25 centuries ago, by contrast, mature forests of cork oak and Atlas cedar darkened the North African uplands, and many of equatorial mammals, from lions to elephants, inhabited the fertile valleys. There is no gainsaying of the fact that the foregoing had amply portrayed a vivid picture of the state of flora and fauna in the Sahara prior to its desiccation. It is therefore worthy to note that the desiccation was brought about by several centuries of human activities and climate change, which turned large expanses of productive land into a desert. The net effect of this was that it sparked off waves of migration of people southward into the Sahel savanna, the Sudan savanna, and the forest belts of West Africa. The desiccation of the Sahara and its consequent loss of vegetation, wildlife, and waves of migration have serious implications for the current generation of the people of Ghana. If care is not taken and the proper measures put in place by way of scrupulously adhering to the cultural beliefs and practices imposed on the Akan by their ancestors, then the fate that befell the people in the Sahara may happen to the future generations of the Akan people living in the forest. This admonition then makes the ideological square as my proposed ecological framework apt. The concept, conservation and preservation. these are two words which you may think are the same, but Mr. Chairman, they are not, they look alike, but they mean different at a certain point. Professor Chair, since the focus of this lecture is conservation, it is proper to attempt an explanation of the concepts conservation and preservation. Jones asserts that conservation can easily be explained and defined because definitions are predisposed to change. Consequently, he knows that an acceptable definition of conservation should underscore not only economic attentions, but also biological and ecological dimensions. He again stresses that the term preservation in disciplines such as conservation sciences and environmental anthropology means protecting from destruction without using. Jones distinguishes preservation from conservation, which usually means protecting from destruction while using the resource. It is within this context that the two terms, conservation and preservation, are used and understood in the Akan cultural practices relating to the ecology. This said, it is now imperative to turn the discourse on ecological framework. Environmental degradation in Ghana over the years has manifested in the form of depletion of the forest reserves through lumbering, galamsey, or illegal mining and surface mining with attendant pollution of water bodies. Okay. Professor Chair, you can see how the land had turned into arid or into a desert. And this represents the Sahara Desert. And you see that a lot of, many years of anthropogenic activities, in other words, human activities, had turned a land that once looked like a Tvucc forests, Kakum forests, or any other forest that we may think of, had now resulted in this. Some time ago, on the Sahara Desert, you had elephant, you had antelope, we had everything that you can think of today, if you can visualize how a forest is, if you haven't gone to a forest before. But today, this is how it is. And so, if we don't take care, our land, our forest will one day become this. And let's move on and you shall see. Okay. Other forms of environmental degradation are indiscriminate bush burning, poaching, use of chemicals such as DDT and carbide in fishing, illegal chainsaw operations, and industrial affluence. Undoubtedly, these are human activities which are stimulated by the citizens' quest to eke out a living, albeit improper or illicit. Thus, environmental degradation in Ghana has, over the years, been engendered by economic considerations. In this lecture, we wish to explore the significance of drawing on indigenous knowledge systems as proffered by the Akan to elucidate our idea of the conservation or preservation of the environment. To do this, we intend to examine some cultural norms of the Akan and use them to adumulate our proposed ecological framework. The first of such cultural beliefs and practices is the Adai. Now, this is the Adai, and we shall come to that very soon when I move on. This is Akan calendar, 40-day Akan calendar. And you have 2 days, Akweside and then Aokude. You have Fojo and then Fufi. But more to that later. Now, is the Adai. The first of such cultural beliefs or practice is Adai. The Adai are 2 special days in the Akan calendrical system, which, as we have come to know, have both spiritual and physical significance. Professor Chair, drawing on an interdisciplinary sources or perspectives spanning from historiography, ecology, biology, anthropology, and archaeology, we will argue in this lecture that the metaphysical dimension of Adai is of utmost importance to the cultivation and conservation or preservation of Ghana's forest belt. The lecture will demonstrate that indigenous beliefs and cultural practices like what we have come to know as taboos are pivotal to the cultivation and conservation or preservation of Akan cosmogony. We intend to use the term cosmogony in an attempt to capture the Akan conceptualization of the origin of the universe. We will reveal that the Akan cultural beliefs and practices in relation to preservation or conservation of the ecosystem predates European colonization. In other words, it wasn't the Europeans who came to teach us how to conserve our environment. When they came, our forebears knew how to conserve their environment. This is evident in the belief and practices of the people, which are seen in all aspects of their lives. It is worthy to note that conspicuously mixing in the contemporary discourse on environmental conservation and preservation policy is the role of the indigenous cultural beliefs and practices. Consequently, the overarching goal of this lecture is to urge policymakers as well as Nananom or traditional authorities of the Akan areas to be confident in applying the wisdom of the past in ensuring sustainable development and environmental preservation or conservation. Sadly, these activities are not also found among Akan communities these days. Professor Chair, this lecture is important because of its implication for climate change discourse. There is no doubt that the world today has experienced precipitous depletion of the Anthropocene. Clearly, the development has been occasioned by anthropogenic activities such as those already identified. Professor Chair, I believe a brief overview of the Akan is necessary to foreground this discussion. Who are the Akans? Now, this is a diagram showing the population of Ghana, and the Akan constitute 45.7% of the population. You can see Moli Dagwani 18.1, Eve 12.8, and then Adangwe 7.1, Guma and others. They are there. Now, I'm giving you a brief account of the Akans. The Akan, as an ethnic group, are found in both Ghana and the Ivory Coast, though some scholars on the Akan add Togo. The reason, it appears, is because the Chokosi people who live across the northern Ghana and northern Republic of Togo are classified as Akan. This aspect of the account is, however, suspect, since it is not borne out by the facts. Data gleaned from Statistica indicate that the Akan in 2021 constituted 45.7% of Ghana's population, and as I have already demonstrated on the board for you. Professor Chair, the Akan occupied the forest belt of both Ghana and the Ivory Coast, which had been endowed with natural resources of immense economic value, such as gold, diamond, bauxite, timber, flora and fauna, as well as human resource. Regarding the origin of the Akan, Kwarteng and Ousu, citing Ankwanda, make the following remarks, and I quote, local environment-related knowledge of the forest dates back to the Stone Age era. Archaeological evidence gathered by Ankwanda suggests that from about 10,000 BC, from about 10,000 BC, late Stone Age hunter-gatherers who fashioned microlithic and flake industries occupied the woodland, savanna, and forests. They are believed to have established intensive food gathering, fishing, and hunting economies. Oral evidence gathered and recorded by Rattray among the Ashanti recalls an era when game, fish, and wild herbs, berries, and roots were the sole food of the people. Thus corroborating this evidence, Ankwanda further suggests that remnants of the Neolithic people and some migrants possibly evolved into the Akan in the area around Bono, Adanse, and Asen between 500 BC and AD 1000. They developed the Akan language and the political and social institutions associated with the Akan. Professor Chair, from the above, it can clearly be deduced that the Akan evolved from the remnants of the early Stone Age people and migrants who occupied the forest belt of Ghana. These areas are Adanse, Bono, and Asen, and are identified as the provenance of what? Akan. That it was from these areas that they spread out to occupy other areas in the forest ecological zone of Ghana. Certainly, it was in these areas that the Akan developed their language, political and social institutions. Embedded in their social institutions are their unique cultural traits, such as their matrilineal system of inheritance, colorful kente, and adinkra cloths. The Ntong cult and 40-day or Adaduanan calendar, which I've already shown to you, so I won't bother you again. The 40-day calendar contains the Adai, 2 special days of spiritual value, to which the Akwaside and then the Aukude. I've already shown that to you, so it shouldn't be a big issue. Yeah. Okay, that is the 2 days. I'm very particular about it. These two, Akwaside and Aukude. Now, let's see the significance of the Ade with respect to environmental conservation. Professor Chair, the Ade, as depicted in Figure 2, are Aukude and Akwaside, which are of enormous significance to the Akan in all phases of their lives. These 2 days in the Akan calendrical system are referred to as Dabone because they are devoted to traditional religious activities, particularly activities that relate to the ancestors and the gods. The activities are regulated by strict adherence to the ecocentric and theocentric principles of the Adai that impose sanctions on culprits as far as the environment is concerned. To this end, there had been an imposition of some taboos in the Akan societies to safeguard the environment throughout their history. The Akan name for the forest is Kwaye, and through close interaction for centuries with the forest environment, they realized its multi-purpose value, provision of medicine, food, clothing, shelter, and articles of trade, such as gold, ivory, and cola. These articles of trade were the source of wealth of the Akan states. People, and in particular the rulers, Nananom in their wisdom came to a stark realization that they had to put measures in place to safeguard the forest and its byproducts so that they would be there for them and the generations yet unborn. For this reason, they devised policies in the form of taboos that were shrouded in mystery to ensure not only the sustainable use of the forest and its derivatives, but also for environmental protection. Various forms of taboos either directly or indirectly, connected with Ade were imposed on the people as restrictions in their quest to exploit the forest resources. On any of the Dabone, either Aukude or Akweside, everybody in the society was forbidden from going to the forest or to farm, and in some cases, to the riverside to fetch water for domestic use. The underlying reasons were that, first and foremost, Dabone as a day devoted to the ancestors and the gods, human activities in the forest were bad as a sign of reverence. Secondly, chiefs, elders, and traditional priests offered sacrifices to the gods and ancestors. And because of the belief that rivers, some trees, forests, or rock mountains are abodes of the gods, people were forbidden from accessing those places on Dabone. The belief was that anybody apart from the accredited persons like chiefs, elders, and priests who visited these places aforementioned could meet the gods, ancestors, Sasabronsam, forest monster, or dwarfs, and something untoward could happen to him or her. Consequently, nobody could dare to go to any forbidden space or on Dabone. Any forbidden space on Dabone, let alone to clear the forest for farming or hunt or fell trees. However, British colonization of the Gold Coast and its dependencies like Ashanti and the Northern Territories, coupled with the introduction of Christianity and Islam in the country in the 19th century and the subsequent conversion of some of the indigenous people, led to acculturation and violation of these specific Akan cultural imperatives. The Christian missionaries, especially the Basel missionaries, saw everything about the Akan culture as devilish. Therefore, they made their converts defy with impunity the African culture and injunctions imposed on people not to access the forbidden places on Dabone. The offenders were protected by the government of the colonial state, while the chiefs looked on helplessly as most of the forbidden spaces were encroached, desecrated, and destroyed beyond repairs. The gross disrespect for the Akan culture and wanton exploitation of timber concessionaires for almost 2 centuries had endangered most tree species like Odum, Kokrodia, Wawa, and the like. Some communities, for instance, regarded Odum as the abode of the gods and would not fell them in the pre-colonial time. But colonialism made the citizenry disobey the injunction, which had ensured the conservation of the ecosystem. Thus, it can be said that in assessing the causes of the environmental degradation in the forest belt of Ghana, colonialism and Christianity cannot be left out for stereotyping the Akan cultural values and practices which safeguarded the environment from degradation. Professor Chair, apart from the forbidden spaces that had direct linkage with Dabone, there are other places that were not directly connected to the Adai. Nevertheless, they were believed to be protected by divine sanctions, so they were declared forbidden places. Writes that the Akan have a firm belief that their physical life depended on the society. Their physical life depended on the physical environment. Therefore, they devised ways to ensure the sustainable use of the natural resources. He elucidates that mechanisms of conservation included sacred groves and totemism, which have religious undertones. Kwarteng and Ousu, when I say Kwarteng, I'm referring to myself. And Ousu also contend that the Akan developed their own concept of conservation and forest management prior to the arrival of the Europeans on the shores of the Gold Coast. They assert that right from the onset, when the Akan took possession of the virgin forest, they became aware that intense human activities could result in the degradation of the forest. To forestall degradation of the virgin forest, they formulated strategies of conservation, mostly cloaked in mystery. They developed a conservation system which was a blend of ecocentric and theocentric systems. This gave rise to the philosophy surrounding Akan taboos, proverbs, and folklores, which were rooted in forest conservations. In forest conservations. They buttressed this with the notion that led to the conservation practice called chiridade, to which cutlass is forbidden. Cutlass is forbidden. This entails setting a large tract of forest aside and barred the people from harvesting either flora or fauna or clearing any portion of it for human settlement or farming purposes. Accordingly, the practice made a clear distinction between the forest and the agricultural lands. This made conservation holistic and not fractional conservation. The Chiridade gained collective acceptability by the society, which declared it as the abode of the gods and the ancestors, for which reason it became a taboo for any individual to enter such a sacred grove. Any breach of the taboo, it was believed, could incur the wrath of the gods and ancestors, and offenders, when apprehended, were severely punished by the traditional authorities. On Nsuta's two lands in Ashanti region, there were several Chiridade spotted at different places. For example, between the village of Tadieso and Nsuta, there were about 3 different Chiridade in the 1970s and early 80s. But by the first decade of the 20th century, all the Chiridade had been cleared for farming purposes. This came about because of population growth and urbanization, which increased the pressure on demand for farmlands and other land uses. Professor Chair, another cultural practice by the Akan worthy of mention and discussion was the preservation of water bodies from pollution and conservation of the vegetation along river banks. The rivers, whether small or large, serve as the sources of drinking water and other domestic uses. The Akan people in the forest belt, just like people of the other ethnic groups, knew that water is life, though they did not use water for irrigation like the Egyptians and other people living elsewhere in Africa or Ghana. They were aware that if the water bodies were not protected, they could be polluted and also dried up. Accordingly, in line with their cultural beliefs, values, and practices, developed a concept protecting the upper courses and, in some cases, the entire length of rivers, especially rivers that serve as sources of drinking water. A basic feature of the rivers in West Africa is that they swell in volume during the rainy season and dwindle in size, leaving shallow pools during the dry Harmattan season. In order to ensure that the rivers were not polluted with fecal matter or dry up completely during the dry Harmattan seasons, the people were forbidden from clearing the vegetation along river courses and also from defecating into or close to rivers. There was the belief that the rivers are the abodes of the gods, which are sacred and therefore should not be desecrated with urine or fecal matter. This means that the Akan people knew that if you defecated or urinated into the river, it could result in infection and outbreak of some waterborne diseases like cholera, dysentery, and diarrhea if the people downstream drank it. Again, it shows that the Akan people, right from the onset, had the awareness that if the rivers were exposed to the sun's rays and the dry Harmattan winds, they could dry up and deprived them of water for drinking and other domestic uses. So they came up with the idea of shelter belt or buffer zone to protect the river courses. But what do we see today? It is pathetic to note that due to the intrusion of Christianity, Islam, modernity, education, population growth, galamsey, and other land uses like farming and construction of buildings, most shelter belts or buffer zones of rivers had been cleared for either cultivation of vegetables, construction of houses, and illegal mining. In the urban areas, business-minded people and those with money and well-connected in government or society managed to obtain permits, that is building permits, to fill river courses or valleys with sand or laterite to block the rivers or divert them. A classic example is the attempt by the Bantamahene Bafo Usman Kwarteng deceased to divert the course of River Subin at its source at race course in Bantama, Kumasi. The Bantamahene diverted the course of the river. Following that, he sold the land to a developer. This was brought to the attention of the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei II, who dealt drastically with the offender, the Bantamahene. What the Asantehene did to the Bantamahene should inspire all the Nananom to emulate such shining example. Nananom should drastically deal with any individuals, irrespective of their status in society, whose actions and inactions would result in the degradation of the forbidden species or our environment. Professor Chair, additionally, the Akan forbade the consumption of fish from some rivers. For example, the fish in Tano and Sekwa rivers are forbidden delicacy in coast. Akan communities from Bono Techiman through Tanoso to Tanoso in Ahafo region do not see the fish of River Tano as a delicacy because there is a belief that the gods abode in the river and that the fish are the children of the gods. This belief has resulted in abundant fish in the rivers. But these days, owing to the craze and desire by some people to get rich quickly, they have treated with disdain the Akan cultural values, beliefs, and practices. Thus, the inviolability of River Tano and Sekwa has been desecrated. Some politicians and unemployed youth in the country, in conjunction with their Chinese collaborators, are seriously engaged in galamsey mining on River Tano. I think I need to show this thing to you. Please, this is River Tano, and this is how it looks like. In 2018, I went to a colloquium in Yamoussoukro, and when I was flying to and from Abidjan, I saw the state of River Tano from the air, and this is how it looks like. This is one of the things we are doing to ourselves. Please, let's go. Yeah. And their Chinese collaborators are seriously engaged in galamsey mining in River Tano, a forbidden site, with chamfine machines. Consequently, the color of the river has not only changed from colorless to coffee-like or clay-like, but has also been polluted with deleterious substances such as mercury. The sequel of this is inevitable. The chemical pollution would kill most of the fish in the river and reduce their numbers. Professor Chair, again, the pollution and change of color of River Tano compelled the Ivorian government to lodge a complaint to the Ghana government to checkmate the activities of the galamsey miners on the river. River Tano from Ghana enters Ivory Coast before finally emptying its waters into the Gulf of Guinea. This explains why the Ivorian government was concerned about its pollution. Another cultural practice of the Akan, which promoted conservation of the ecosystem, was totemism. Ross James and Watson are cited by Ewe Nyamiche for describing totemism as the relationship of mutual life-giving between human beings and natural species. A conservationist, Ochiame Ampedueje, also cites Oti Ayure, who indicates that totemism has been one of the major traditional conservation tools which have helped to conserve many wildlife species to date. The above references underscore the fact that totems have not only played a significant socio-cultural function in the lives of the Akan, but they have also served as valuable mechanisms in preserving and conserving wildlife in the forest belt. This is evident in the use of various animals as totems by the eight Akan clans or families. To wit, you have them. Aduana, Aguna, I am Aguna. So this is my symbol. Ekona, Asuna, Bretio, Asechuri, Oyoko, and Asenia. And you must note that any family or any traditional area where any of these symbols is the totem of the family or the state, that animal will appreciate, they will be conserved, they will eat them, they won't kill them, they won't do anything to them. They are considered to be sacred. So that led to what? Conservation. But what are you going to see? Let's move on. Okay. Professor Chair. Professor Chair, it is a taboo for any member of a particular clan to kill, let alone eat, the totem of that clan. This led to conservation of the totemic animal species in the community where it is regarded as totem. This is borne out by Oti Ayore, who assessed that the cultures and traditions of Ghanaians are strictly attuned to wildlife conservation. In the earlier part of this lecture, I alluded to the significance of the elephant to our ecosystem. Permit me, Professor Chair, to again reiterate the fact that scholars like Moses Sam have drawn attention to the fact that efforts made at conserving elephants in Ghana were initiated by traditional authorities in the pre-colonial era. He asked that these traditional authorities consider the elephant as a royal game and generously protected it through traditional bylaws and myths. Professor Chair, the protection of elephants in the pre-colonial times by the traditional authorities is of great significance. It is worthy noting that the elephant has many use values, including socio-economic, cultural, biological, recreational, and ecological. Biologists, for example, have identified the elephant as a keystone species that the ecosystem requires for its survival. A keystone species that the ecosystem requires for its survival. This is elephant. And we are going to see presently how vital the elephant is to the ecosystem. But do you find the elephant today, or they are not there? So if their numbers are dwindling or they become endangered, then we see how we have caused havoc to our environment. The extinction of the elephant as a keystone species will cause a cascade of change or extinctions in the ecosystem. Again, the forest elephant has been described as possessing a messenger boy characteristics by ensuring the dispersal of seeds of primary tree species of close forest areas into abandoned cocoa farms in Ghana. Apart from this, elephants disperse seeds in the forest, especially large, tough seeds. There are some seeds, they can never germinate if elephant doesn't go through the gut or the alimentary canal of the elephant. In the ecosystem, elephants are majestic animals. That are not trivial. Further, in the ecosystem, the elephant acts as a bulldozer by opening up the dense undergrowth of primary forests and thickets, creating a patchwork of woodlands and grasslands that support grazing and browsing animals. All these functions that the forest elephant performed in sustaining the ecology justify their protection by the traditional authorities. Though none of pre-colonial times were not biologists, in their wisdom, they realized nonetheless the enormous benefits of forest elephants to the environment. Without the elephant, some tree and animal species in the ecosystem would become extinct. Professor Chair, despite the importance of totemic animals such as those so far examined, we can posit that modernity and its corollary and the disregard for the Akan cultural practices, beliefs, and values have equally contributed to the decline of the population of the totemic animals. Some of the animals have, as a result, become endangered and are placed on CITES Appendix 2. Seldom do we see vultures. When I was a boy growing up, we used to see vultures in their numbers. Mpete. They will be hovering in the air in their numbers. And I remember very well, those days when you saw them, you say, witches and wizards are meeting. That's why the vultures are hovering in the air. But today, do you see them? Some people tell me they don't even see vultures at all. But fortunately for me, in the area where I live, the village where I live, I see vultures, one or two of the vultures, but few of them. Now, seldom do we see vultures, the symbol of ancestry, which as recent as the 1970s and 80s used to hover in the air in their numbers. In the same vein, around this same period, plenty elephants used to inhabit the Ahafo forest. But in recent times, due to the degradation of the forest, rarely do we see elephants in Ahafo, as was the case in the past. Similarly, leopard, the totem of Bretio, seem to have disappeared from the forest completely. Parrots, the totem of the Aguna, have equally become endangered owing to the wanton destruction of the forest and poaching. In the past, it was a common sight to see flocks of parrots flying together, but this has become a thing of the past because of poaching. Bats, the symbol of Assyria, although not endangered, nonetheless, due to the destruction of the forest, have left the high forest and are hanging on the trees in the cities. A prototypical example is Kumasi Zoo and University of Cape Coast Lecturers Village, where they are seen hanging on acacia and other trees, making noise during the day. This is a clear indication that the forest has been degraded through wanton felling of trees for timber and other purposes. This, in the past, was not the case. Meanwhile, we should not lose sight of the importance of the bats in the dispersal of seeds of some forest trees through their droppings. Now, it is evident that all these totemic animals are relevant to conservation of the environment. So, their decline has negatively impacted on the environment. Professor Chair, we have now come to the acme of the lecture. We now pay attention to the ideological square for the conservation of the environment with some suggestions. So, this is the ideological square. I'll explain briefly, and then I'll come back to my script, give one or two suggestions and recommendations, then we come to an end. Our forebears from the lecture so far, we have seen that they combine ecocentrism and theocentrism. The forest was seen as abode of God. Everything in the forest, rock mountains, everything was seen as abode, special. So theocentrism refers to the gods, God and the gods. If you examine traditional African religion, you see that you have Onyankopon, the gods, then we have the Abosom, Motias, Asabronsam, and all those. That is what is represented here as well, theocentrism. And ecocentrism is the forest. They amalgamated the two. They put the two together. So they ensure that these two are combined in the conservation of the forest. So Nananom in the past ensured that the forest was conserved by adhering to the principles of what ecocentrism and theocentrism. Now, we don't only have Nananom. Nananom have lost part of their independence, a greater part of it. I won't have to say part, a greater part of their independence to the state of Ghana. So in alienating land, at times, Nana will be there and then they will just go and present him with a bottle of schnapp, telling him that this parcel of land belonging to you, you want to lease it to a timber contractor or to a mining concessionaire, and Nana will have no option because it's coming from Akan. And in most of the time, especially from the early part of the colonial period, most of our Nananom were illiterates. And because they were illiterates, they have to thumbprint. They don't even understand what has been provided for them to sign. So they thumbprinted, and before you are aware, they have started degrading the land. Even today, most Nananom even say that Galamsey is going on their land, but they are not the ones who alienated the land to the people who are doing Galamsey on it. But my ideological square is saying that in ensuring conservation in our country, to protect our land from degrading further and to avert a situation where you have Sahara. It's unfortunate I couldn't play that thing. A Ghanaian Galamsey telling Ghanaians that they don't care about cocoa, they don't care about anything, but they want to make Ghana, the forest was acquired for them by their forebears, so they will make Ghana a Sahara desert. If I had been able to play it, you would have understood it better yourself. Now the ideological square is proposing that Nananom and the state should have equal say in conservation of what? The forest. Under no circumstance should the state alienate land, or you have town and country planning or survey department or lands commission selling land to individuals without permission or without the acquiescence of the Nananom. The land belongs to Nananom, it doesn't belong to the state, even though the constitution says that land is vested in the president. It was Nananom who went to war and acquired the land, and the land belongs to them. That's why at the end of the day, they pay royalties to Nananom. So my ideological square is saying that you don't have to dispense or wish away ecocentrism and theocentrism in the preservation of the vegetation or ecology, and that Nananom and the state should have equal say. Under no circumstance should Nananom be denied the opportunity or a say in the conservation. And if that is done, we adhere to these principles, we can safeguard the few forest reserves that we have, and Sahara will not catch up with us. Now, from the discussions and the analysis so far, this lecture has demonstrated that the violation of the Akan cultural beliefs and practices has contributed immeasurably to the degradation of the forest in particular and the environment in general. In our estimation, one surest way to ameliorate this situation is for Nananom and government to collaborate, which I've said already, so there's no need to talk about it. anymore. So this is my ideological square. Now, following from the above, we can then make the following observations and suggestions below. It is obvious that the clearing of Tridade, the felling of some trees, species, and destruction of shelter belts and other forbidden species, which hitherto served as windbreak to protect the soil and the water bodies, have had negative consequences on the climate. The wanton destruction had affected the rainfall pattern within the forest belt, and in particular, the southern and middle belts of the country. This year you have had copious rainfall, but that should not deceive us into thinking that, oh, it's all well with us. It's all because of the global warming and then the environmental degradation. This year you have had rains, but next year you may not have it, and we may have drought. The forest cover and the water bodies, in no small way, in the past, contributed to crowd formation and conventional rainfall. However, the gradual degradation of the forest belt and the drying up of some of the river bodies have had negative effects on rainfall patterns. It is therefore being suggested that Nananom should collaborate with government to put pragmatic policies based on the Akan cultural beliefs, values, and practices in place to restore the degraded ecology. Again, it has been established that whenever there is a heavy downpour for more than 1 hour, it results in flooding of some big towns like Kumasi, Accra, Koforidua, Sunyani, Tamale. And it may interest you to know, Mr. Chairman, I went to Ho 2 weeks ago. I was returning when I got to Accra Old Barrier on Cape Coast Takoradi Highway, Accra Cape Coast Highway. The place, the Accra-bound lane was flooded, and that no car could traverse that road. So they had to move from that lane onto the Cape Coast bound lane. And indeed, you spent almost 4 hours on a very short stretch of land. And that tells you that when it rains, even for an hour, because of our irresponsible management of our environment and our resources, this is how it has led, where it has led us to. Now, for instance, most water courses have been filled with laterite for construction of houses and other building structures. These structures block the flow of runoff water whenever it rains, forcing the water to find its own way, thereby causing heavy flooding. The flood waters enter homes of people in the cities, block vehicular traffic, and in some cases, carry cars, other valuables, and human beings away. It is our position that Nananom and finally family heirs, who are the landlords and custodians of the land, should conscientiously follow and take into consideration the Akan cultural beliefs and practices regarding water bodies, preservation and conservation when giving out land for building purposes. Both town and country planning and Nananom should leave a buffer zone of about 100 meters or more between rivers and buildings. Again, and Professor Chair, let me intimate here that I was in Canada in July and August, and I was fascinated with the way and manner they have lived in harmony with the environment. They have forests, but in between houses are forests. And those who have been to Canada can attest to what I'm talking about. Can't we also do the same in our country? Also, trees should be planted at the river banks or on the proposed buffer zones to provide shelter for the streams and declare it Tridade. What is more, in planning towns, both the government and Nananom should factor into it traditional conservation strategies regarding water bodies. To this end, they should ensure no drains or gutters empty its content into streams in the city or towns to pollute it with fecal matter, urine, or industrial effluents. Further, it cannot denied that human population is increasing year by year and that people have to subsist. This implies that forest land would have to be cleared for establishment of farms, for production of food and construction of houses. But in alienating land for these purposes, Nananom must take environmental protection into consideration. They have to adhere strictly to the land fallow and shifting cultivation systems that have been practiced in the past to ensure conservation and restoration of soil fertility. Additionally, Nananom should lend support to government's fight against illegal mining and mining on water bodies with samphire machines and mercury. Nananom are the people who usually lease their lands to these miners for some economic benefits. If they stop leasing land to these small-scale miners, there is no way that the miners can access the land. Moreover, Nananom must necessarily report illegal miners on their stool lands to the law enforcement agencies. Above all, chiefs who fail to do that or alienate land to the Chinese and Galamsey miners must be distilled by their overlords or kingmakers. Nananom should also ensure that tenants on their stool lands do not sell or lease their farms to prospective miners to degrade the environment. Nananom should be bold not to sign any indenture for mining lease that does not provide comprehensive environmental impact assessment, which does not take the cultural beliefs and practices into account. Also, Nananom must not allow vegetable growers in the urban centers to grow lettuce, cabbage, spring onion, green pepper, and others close to streams and in wetland areas so that they don't pollute the streams with agrochemicals that are toxic to aquatic life. In conclusion, in this lecture, we employed the interdisciplinary perspective drawn from historiography, ecology, biology, anthropology, and archaeology to argue for the restoration of the African cultural ethos in the preservation of the environment. We have established that a commingling of factors accounted for the degradation of the forest ecology of the Akan. However, the lecture has demonstrated that the surest way to avert a disaster that once befell the Sahara in Ghana is for Nananom to scrupulously collaborate with the state by faithfully relying on the ecocentric and theocentric principle. To this end, the ideological square has been proffered as the way forward. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm told I have to do acknowledgement. Now, if I were to have a list, it is going to be a tall list. But I have to first and foremost thank the Almighty God, the creator of the universe and the sustainer of my life and your life. It is by his grace that this lecture came on today. Many thought it would not come on, but to him all things are possible. So it has come on. You perfectly understand me. Then, having thanked the Almighty, the creator of the universe, and me and you, let me thank the Vice Chancellor and then the university management for the opportunity that they gave me to deliver my inaugural lecture today. In fact, it should have come on last week, but due to official university activity, it has to be rescheduled to today. But the Bible says that in all things, you should give thanks to God. And everything works for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. He knows why he made it today. Yeah. Now, having thanked my university management, let me now shift on to all the provosts of the colleges of UCC. I want to thank all of you for the support that you have given me. I want to thank the Vice Chancellor, the Pro-VC, and then the Registrar. The Registrar is my mate. So we all came here the same year, and we all competed the same year, and we are all working here. So he is somebody who is very dear to me. He's not my biological brother, but he's my academic brother, because we all started the same day and are still in the boat together. Now, I also want to thank all the professors of the College of Professors who are nicely clothed in their academic pomposity and have come here to support me. May the good Lord bless you. Now, I want to shift on and thank all the lecturers in the College of Humanities and Legal Studies, where I am the boss. Yeah, they have all been supportive. Of course, you will not get everybody supporting you, but I'll say that all of them have been supportive. Even if you don't support me, that is also good. Because if people don't oppose you, you will never sit up and do the right thing. So those who supported me and those who do not support me, I thank all of you. May the good Lord bless all of you. Now, my office staff, provost office staff, my registrar, you are more or less like brothers, like a brother. I am my registrar, you are like a brother. Sure. Birthday mate, yeah. My registrar, my staff, Auntie Jane, and others. I can't offhand recall all the names, but they know themselves. My drivers, my two drivers, Mr. Kumi and Mr. Otu, they have been very fantastic. They have been taking me around all over. Anywhere I go, they take me around. They come to pick me in the house when I call them to come. And anytime I call on them, they do that. So I thank you. May the good Lord bless you for that. Now, my deans, I thank you all of the college, all the deans in the college, I thank you. Now, having done with that and thank all the lecturers, let me move on to my family. I'll first and foremost thank my wife, Comfort, Osei Kwarteng. Yeah. He has been my childhood wife. And yeah, at the beginning of my life, that's when we married. And you say, behind every successful man, there is a woman. So may God Almighty bless you and thank you. And my kids, Emanuela and Victoria, and then Stewart, my boy. I want to that's my family, please. Now, yeah, that is. Oh, I wanted to show the picture of my family. I want to thank my kids and then also thank my. Now, having thanked my kids and then my family, let me now shift it to my. That's my family of what? Procreation. I want to shift to my family of what? Orientation. The Royal Aguna family of Mim and Akwabwa. It's a story. If you ask me later, I'll lecture because you don't have time on you. We are like the Jabbing. We have two places of abode. So we come from two places. And I want to thank the occupant of the Akwabwas too, Nana Kusi a Japan Apo. He was not able to come because he has sought permission from Asantehene to go to visit the family in Canada. And he appointed Nana Kwakudia, the Bamuhene, to represent him. So, Nana, I thank you and thank Nana and his elders through you for coming to grace the occasion. Apart from that, I also call on the queen mother of the family, Nana Techiwa. Thank you very much, Nana, for also coming all the way from Mim to grace the occasion. I also thank my Abusiapani, Nana Kwakubrinya. You also came. And my siblings, my biological siblings. My mother had four children, four boys and a lady. They are all here. All my four siblings are all here. A Champon, Ajamai. Richmond, and then Joyce. They are all here gracing the occasion. And then my virtually the entire family, they all came. I have only 2 surviving aunts, Aunt Mary Kuma and Aunt Rose Okuma. They are all here. They came. And then my sister, one of my siblings, is also here. Also from Mame Diana and others. The rest, I cannot mention your name, Kwakusi and others. All of you, please, you can stand up for acknowledgement. Yeah, they all came in their numbers to grace the occasion. Then, I also having thanked my family, I want to thank Nananom who are here. First and foremost is Nana Tvucc, the fifth, the chief of Atonkwa, my landlord. And he has been, Nana, may God bless you. He has been a father and everything. Nana has supported me in Tikenton. Nana, may good Lord bless you. And then also, he came here, the country hima of Ogwa traditional area, Nana, the mayor of Ogwa traditional area, and all other Nana Nom that are here. I thank you all very much for coming to grace the occasion. Nana Kwabranketia is gone, the Omahin of Iskadu traditional area. I saw that after the presentation, he left. He was my teacher here in the university, in the history department. He's one of the people who trained me, so I want to acknowledge him. And then the Rock of Ages, Dr. Bodisian, one of the teachers, my teachers, Dr. Bodisian. I want all of you to see him. He is over 80 years, but still he's supporting the department, and he has taken some time off to come and grace the occasion. Now, let me also acknowledge, they are not here, Professor Emeritus Divan Aminumi, my mentor and daddy. I called him daddy. Dr. D.A. Akan, I also call him daddy because he was the one who first introduced me into academic writing, publication. And in 2002, when I joined this university, it was Dr. Akan who invited me to join him to write the history of the university for the 40th anniversary, history of the University of Cape Coast, 40 years of resilience. And that gave me a lot of exposure, and that also gave me the flair to write. I learned a lot sitting under his feet. So he's old now. I thank all my teachers. Some of them are dead. My supervisor, Dr. Afrifa, posthumously, I want to thank him because he taught me one thing. He said, always have a mind of your own. And indeed, I followed or I heeded that advice. And those who know me, I have a mind of my own. Okay, now, having said that, let me come to my good friend, Osofo Iwan, and the family. I see them sitting here. I see Mr. David, the Busiapani of Atonkwa. I thank you all. They are like a family. And then my in-laws, my wife's mother, Auntie Mansa, and the husband, they were here. Auntie Mansa, can I see you? Auntie Mansa, that's my in-law. They have all traveled from Kumasi to come and grace the occasion. And so I thank them. I thank the secondary schools, the various secondary schools that I invited. I asked the the public relations to invite all the secondary school, the history students, and they have all come in their numbers. It's unfortunate that they were delayed. May God bless you very much. And my reason for inviting you was for you to come. People say that if you do history, you have no prospects. But I wanted you to know that it is never true. You do history and you become one of the greatest people if only you apply yourself to what you are doing. Now, so I want you to learn something from what I've been able to do today so that you also become one day a big historian like me. Now, I want to thank my church, Harvest Chapel International. My pastor is not immediately present. He's traveled, but he asked the wife to come and represent him here. My deacons, my church pastors, they are here. And then one person I will have to mention is Pastor Ndebugri, my good friend and my prayer partner. And then also my big brother, Vice Chancellor of Methodist University, Professor Bonzi Simpson. Prof, I saw you. Are you here or you've left? He's my big brother. He's one of the people who love me in this university. So, big brother, you are welcome. And then the Vice Chancellor, former Vice Chancellor of Cape Coast Technical University, Professor Osei, he's come. He's also a big brother. Thank you very much. Professor Kwaku, the current Vice Chancellor of Cape Coast Technical University. Prof, can I see you? Thank you very much. Yeah, I think he has gone out. Now, I end by saying that I thank everybody. I have made a big mistake. The mistake is that I thank the Director General of NACA and Council Chair members of NACA, Prof. Edward Appiah and his team. Let me see you. Where all the NACA, my people, let me see you. Since 2017, you have been working together as a team and provided curriculum framework for the Ghana's pre-tertiary education, and we are on it. So in future, when the history comes to be written, I think nobody can take away my name, and nobody can also take away your names. Thank you very much. May the good Lord bless everybody who has contributed in diverse ways. Hey, sorry. There is one person that I have to acknowledge. He's called Mr. Nsoa, but I don't call him Mr. Nsoa. I called him Nana Nsoa, all because my grandma, who gave birth to my aunts and my mother, is called Nsoa. And in deference to my grandmother, I always call him Nana Nsoa. And I've known him since 2017 when we started the curriculum framework, the design of the curriculum framework. And he was very, very instrumental. He was former Director General of Ghana Education Service. I invited him and he came. As old as he is, he came. May good Lord bless you, Nana. On this note, I thank you very much for the opportunity given me.
Let's do. No, Prof. So you'd have to be back on the stage for what we call the robing ceremony. I would invite the College of Professors to help us with this brief ceremony. Let's welcome them up stage.
Good evening, everybody. Now, our brother has told us what he stands for and what he's been doing. The tradition is that now that he has now come out, we need to induct him and accept him into the College of Professors. So, so what we are going to do is to derobe him and put another robe like we are wearing to recognize that he's become part of us. Thank you very much. So he's going to be derobed. Right. So that's a recognition that he has now arrived and has become a member of the College of Professors. So they are going to now embrace him and then welcome him formally to the club. You are welcome.
After the College of Professors, I'll call on the Pro-Vice Chancellor of UCC, Professor Mrs. Rosamond Boahini, and the Registrar of UCC, Mr. Jefte Emmanuel Onyame, to take turns to congratulate him. I would invite the chair of the College of Professors, Professor Osei Boaminsa, to also come up stage and congratulate Professor Osei Kwarteng. He'll be followed by Nanansua. I'll call on the wife of our speaker to congratulate him. The wife. Let's welcome the wife. Family members, please, you take your turn. Family members, siblings, in-laws, aunties, uncles, kindly take your turn to congratulate him. Family members. So this is a citation presented to Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng. We, your family, want to thank God for giving you to us, to Ghana as contributor to the nation, to nation building, and to the church as a leader. Your humility and selflessness have brought you through the ranks as you climbed the academic ladder to a full professor and to the position of provost of the top most ranked university of Ghana and West Africa, the prestigious University of Cape Coast. You have become a model and mentor both locally and internationally to many who aspire for greatness, especially in their academics. Your immense contribution to the royal family of Satiase, of Mim and Akwabwa cannot be quantified. On this special occasion of your inaugural lecture, your brother, the Akwabwa Hini Nana Kusi Ejapon Apel I, congratulate you on your achievements and wish you God's blessings. Ayiko. Naka will take their turn after family. Thank you very much. Kindly exit from my left. Thank you. And the Naka, kindly come up from the right. Please exit from the left. Naka. Naka, please come up stage from my right. Naka. Naka. Naka will be followed by the Harvest Chapel International Church. Harvest Chapel International Church. If you're here, kindly approach the stage. Harvest Chapel International Church. If you're here, kindly approach the stage. Clergy and members of Harvest Chapel International. Harvest Chapel International, kindly approach the stage. Harvest Chapel will be followed by staff of the Department of History, then the College of Humanities and Legal Studies. The Department of History, followed by the College of Humanities and Legal Studies. The Department of History, to be followed by the Confucius Institute. Confucius Institute. So this is a citation from the Department of History. It reads, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng, on the occasion of your inaugural lecture, your expertise, teaching, and mentorship have positively impacted many lives, particularly those of your students and associates. Your scholarly contributions, which are visible in different parts of the world, project you as a renowned historian and also highlight the importance of the study of history in our contemporary world. Your general contributions to the Department of History UCC have enhanced the image of the department in so many ways. We urge you to continue projecting the discipline and the Department of History UCC. May God continue to guide you in all your future endeavors. Congratulations and Ayuko. Thank you very much, Department of History. Confucius Institute will take their turn. The College of Humanities and Legal Studies, kindly approach. College of Humanities and Legal Studies, kindly approach. Thank you very much, Confucius Institute. So a singular honor coming from Professor Jojo Egan, Provost of College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences. Congratulating him now, staff of the College of Humanities and Legal Studies, and they have this citation for him. The College of Humanities and Legal Studies Management Committee celebrates you on this day of the inaugural lecture. We recognize the invaluable contributions you have made to the Republic of Ghana, the university, and the college in particular. Your dedication to advancing knowledge and history is inspiring. On this special day, we extend our warmest congratulations We eagerly look forward to witnessing your future success. Well done and best wishes. Congratulations, sir. UTAG would follow the College of Humanities and Legal Studies. UTAG. Thank you very much. UTAG UCC. Thank you. CHLS. Thank you, College of Humanities and Legal Studies. UTAG. UTAG UCC. UTAG UCC will be followed by the Department of History from the University of Ghana. The Department of History from the University of Ghana. Thank you very much. The Department of History from University of Ghana. Thank you very much. Friends who have not had their turn can approach the stage. Friends. 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 All friends. 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 Friends will be followed by Alumni UCC. Alumni UCC. Thank you very much. UCC alumni, thank you, Mr. Kofi Sechiamapovi. UCC alumni. UCC alumni, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Prof, kindly hand over. So our speaker would exit the stage from my right, and as he goes to take his seat, he will shake hands with Nananom who are here. Thank you. Let's do it for him whilst he exits the stage, and on his way, he will shake hands with Nananom who are present. Thank you very much. Shall we do it for Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng for the last time whilst he takes his seat? At this point, I'll call on our chair, the Vice Chancellor of University of Cape Coast, Professor Johnson Yakubu, to give his closing remarks. Let's welcome him, please.
As we are all aware, Professor Kwame Osei Kwarteng has actually delivered his lecture on the topic, the ideological square, a historian's framework for environmental conservation. He went straight to the point that environmental degradation has become a problem to government, the people of Ghana, and even assume a global proportions or dimensions. And his study focused on the people of the Akan people of Ghana that are living in the forest zone of Ghana. And he said that they constitute about 48.1%. He used evidence from archaeology, history, botany, zoology to support the fact that there has been environmental degradation to the extent that many species, that is the flora and fauna, have gone into extinction. And because his study focused on conservation, particularly using elephants as the main species of concern, he traced the degradation from the Sahara Desert coming down to the Gulf of Guinea. He also mentioned that the Akan people of Ghana use certain cultural practices to conserve the environment. They dedicated certain areas, sacred areas, for conservation, and particularly along the river banks. They left certain areas, and to make sure that people do not farm or cut or remove the vegetation cover along the boundaries of the river. He talked about the use of aquacidé and other dabone to ensure that we protect the environment. He also talked about the fact that certain areas are considered as chidade. That means that it should not be touched by cattlers. Professor also used two terms of certain clans of Akan people to show conservation of animals. And then he stated that colonization of the people of Ghana, and particularly the Akans, and then the use of religion, especially Christianity, led to the degradation of the environment because they defied all the structures that have been set up by the traditional authorities. He went on to talk about the importance of elephant that has been his main focus of research, that the elephant is a majestic animal, and they help to propagate plant species, especially in the forest. And I would like to say that this is not the first time professors have been presenting their research works on the environment. It started with Professor Ama. Professor Ama did that talking about galamsey, and it has also featured in the presentation today by Professor Osei Kwarteng. Professor Ewe Nyameche, which his work that Professor Osei Kwarteng also referenced, also talk about the need to preserve the environment. Professor Ishmael Mensah, though he was talking about tourism, he also linked to the environment, the effect of tourism on the environment. Today, Professor Osei Kwarteng has been talking about the need to preserve the environment. Now he came out with the ideological square based on ecocentrism, geocentrism, nananum, and then the state. Now, what are we doing as academics? That's the question I want to ask today. Do we always come here for presentation to be done, research findings to be presented here, and we sit down and we don't do anything about it? So this should be the ideological square of the academics. How can we engage the government to ensure that we all work together to preserve the environment? He mentioned something that we should all take note of, that we are slowly destroying ourselves. You look at the diagram that he showed, the nature of the soil of the Sahara Desert. If we should find that soil here, it means that we cannot produce food for ourselves. Gradually, we are destroying ourselves. He also mentioned the fact that when he traveled, he saw how other countries have preserved their environment. So what are we doing? Do we want to leave it to Nananum, who have lost their traditional power, to ensure that they protect the environment? I think it's a high time for academics to engage other stakeholders to find solutions. We cannot always wear our academic pomposity, come and sit here, and then all the lectures will be given, and we go back, and we don't do anything about it. So that should be our ideological square. We should always work together, make sure that we engage the government, engage the people of Ghana, all stakeholders, to restore the destruction or the degradation of the environment. We saw the Tano River, and then closer to us is the Pra River. And that is where we take our source water for drinking. We take it from Pra at a certain point, and it comes to a point around Tvucc, so I don't know where exactly it is. And they process it for drinking. And this is the very river that has been polluted with mercury and other chemicals. And we, as academics, we are drinking it, drinking the water. We are drinking it all the time. The more reason why people are suffering from kidney failure and other diseases. So what do we do? That is our ideological square. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pretty shortly, we'll have the closing prayer. But before that, a few personalities to be acknowledged. Professor Osei Kwarteng has already acknowledged quite a number of them already. So I would ask you to help me acknowledge our chair, Professor Johnson Yakubu. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. The Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Mrs. Rosamond Bohini. The Registrar, Mr. Jephte Emmanuel Onyame. We also duly acknowledge the university's librarian, Dr. Mark Anthony Kobler. Professor Samuel Yeboah Mensah, thank you so much, sir, for being here. We duly acknowledge all provosts who have stayed through to witness this inaugural lecture. To the College of Professors, Professor L.K. Sam Amwa, thank you, sir. Professor Augustine Tanley, Professor Frederick Atuama, Reverend Professor Kankam Bwedu, Professor Ishmael Mensah, Professor Mrs. Sarah Dakwa, Professor Eugene Date, and Emeritus Professor Kofi Abusabu-Asari. Thank you all so much. We also extend appreciation to students from the senior high schools once again. We have Infanta Pim Senior High School. They are here. Give us a wave. Thank you for being here. And Wesley Girls Senior High School, thank you for being here. Professor Mukwando, he's also a member of the College of Professors. Thank you so much. Reverend Professor Kankam Bwedu will do us the honors and give the closing prayer. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Humbly, let us be on our feet as we register appreciation unto the Most High God for how far He has dealt with us. And so, Almighty God, once again, we register our appreciation unto you. We thank you for the opportunity listening to your Son for having walked us through the ideological square. Oh Lord, we pray that whatever we have listened to may be impactful in our life, not only listening, but be able to use it well, so at the end of the day, we all have every cause to protect our land. As we live in, we ask that your Spirit will guide and lead us to our various destinations, so that when all is well, we will not hesitate to say big thank you. As we departing, we ask that your grace will be with us. Now the Lord God Almighty bless us so and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift out his countenance upon us and give us peace this day and forevermore. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much. We shall remain standing as the Vice Chancellor, our Speaker, as well as the members of the College of Professors and the entourage exit this auditorium. Nananom will follow. We'll have a photo session in front of this facility. Nananom will take their leave as well. Thank you all so much for coming.